reconciliation. Friday Night Football tonight has the Edmonton Elks meeting Winnipeg for the second straight week. The Bombers have a chance to clinch a playoff spot, Dwayne Ford. For Edmonton, the situation is a lot more critical, but they have the best running game in the Canadian Football League, featuring one of the relative newcomer stars in Justin Rankin.
Yeah, well, Justin Rankin is a guy who was in camp with Edmonton, let go in camp because of numbers, found his way back and has made himself indispensable. Monster game last week, 157 yards on the ground against the vaunted Winnipeg defense. Leading the way for Winnipeg defensively, 6 tackles, a sack, an interception, a knockdown for linebacker Tony Jones, also in camp with Edmonton this year, now trying to do his thing against his former team.
To think that 2 months ago, Mike O'Shea's Bombers lost in Toronto to fall to 2-6. They have not lost since. Alone on top of the West, Jarius Jackson 5-4 as the Elks interim head coach. They've come a long way since 0-7, but they're still out of the playoff mix. A critical one tonight. This Lucky Whitehead. Bombers are going to get the football after the toss. Edmonton and Boris Beattie to get this one started. The second of a back-to-back between the Elks and Bombers underway on a Friday night in Winnipeg. Whitehead has it across the 25, finds some opening there, and he gets up near the 40. Zach Collaros to come on last week, 19-27 for 191, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But this Winnipeg offense also runs the ball very well.
Yeah, the run game was the key. The stat that hops off the page for you about Zach Collaros. Slow start to the season, but this guy has won his last 6 starts for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We all know his playoff success of the last 4 seasons, and he seems to be heating up at just the right time.
They've undergone a lot of changes through injury, players leaving, but here comes Winnipeg. 6 wins in a row, and here they come now and throwing it in a crowd and completing it too. Collaros finds Kenny Lawler up near a first down for the Bombers.
And you'll see Collaros escape to his right here off play action. Got to zip it in quick, putting his faith in Kenny Lawler, who does a nice job working back slightly to his quarterback, extending the arms to catch that one in his hands, preventing the DB from getting a piece of it.
Lawler missed a lot of time on the 6 game, so hasn't played a full season, coming in with just 20 catches for 241 yards. Terry Wilson now handling the short yardage with Chris Strevler injured a few weeks ago in the Banjo Bowl and out for the season. So Bombers get the first down easily with Terry Wilson leading the way. Have a look at that Winnipeg offense.
And this offense has been happy to have Stanley Bryant back, the veteran leader of their offensive line, one of the tone setters. And of course, in that backfield, Brady Oliveira, you heard Jim Barker talk about it in the opening. Yet another 100-yard game for him, yet another 1,000-yard season, 3rd in a row for the Bombers running back.
Oliveira really went off last week at Commonwealth, got his first 2 touchdowns of the season on the ground as well. So first down, play action fake, throwing it to the right to Lawler again. He spins to get away from Lucas. Purifoy, ball's on the ground, and Purifoy has it. Collaros trying to push him out of bounds, which he does. Turnovers went against Edmonton last week when they gave it away 6 times. They have a takeaway to get this game started.
Yeah, looking to turn the tables. Certainly Lawler off the spin.
What was he down?
Yeah, I think he keeps himself up. The hands and the feet are allowed to touch. Now this one looks awkward because it's the back of his hand that seems to touch, but I don't think any other part of him was down before this ball comes out.
The previous play is under review.
It's interesting right now, anticipating the call. You still have Edmonton's offense out there thinking it's a turnover. Winnipeg's offense is still out there several yards back. And a lot of members of the Blue Bombers defense too. A lot of uncertainty over what happened there with Lawler and what they're going to call.
Yeah, watch the left knee of Lawler at the time the ball comes out, because I think that's the closest part to the ground. Here he keeps himself up. It's just hands and feet. Here comes the hit.
So close.
Yeah, and given, again, the ruling on the field was a fumble.
Right.
They played it out. Not sure that there's anything conclusive there to overturn it.
I can't remember too many times where you see a team with both their offense and defense out anticipating the result of a review. That's the case with Winnipeg. Lawler's still out there. A lot of offensive players are, and their defense has come on, anticipating it's going to be Edmonton football close to the 20-yard line of Winnipeg. So is it a fumble by Lawler, or does Winnipeg keep the ball?
Winnipeg's
Upon
defense
review
is
by
off.
the command center, the ball carrier was down with contact at the 53.5. It will be second down.
To your point about the hands, he could still touch with the hands, but it looked like the elbow just went down as the ball came out.
Yeah, keep an eye here. Yeah, you're right. Left forearm gets down before the knee.
Timer, please.
Bombers dodge an early bullet.
Do they ever? So they get to keep the ball, and Lawler gets the yards across midfield just inside the Edmonton 54. But mentioning the turnovers, though, Edmonton turned it over 6 times last week. Winnipeg only once. That was a big part of that 27-14 victory by Winnipeg. Second down and 6. Collaros off to the left. It is caught inside the 50 and more. With a first down, Carrick Wheatfall. One of the seldom used receivers this season, but's been back in the lineup for the last couple of games and picks up a first down there.
Yeah, Wheatfall had a terrific debut. Sort of the first man off the practice roster early in the season when the injuries started to mount in that receiving corps. Dalton Schoen and Kenny Lawler going down. A 100-yard debut, but then found himself on the injured list.
So the Bomber drive continues down to the Edmonton 40. And trying to dump it off quickly. A little confusion there for the Winnipeg offense as Collaros was knocked down, ultimately hoping to dump it off to Nick Dembski, but it falls incomplete.
And taking a look at this Edmonton defense, little veteran presence, I think, has contributed to the rebound of the Edmonton Elks this season. Sean Oakman on that defensive line coming over from Toronto. Derek Moncrief, former Saskatchewan Rough Rider, also previously spent some time in Edmonton, joining that linebacking corps. Marcus Lewis back in on the back end of the boundary half spot this week.
Second down and 10 with time. Looking deep. End zone. Touchdown. Dembski. One big strike. Collaros to Dembski. And Winnipeg has the early lead.
Nick Dembski to the right side of your screen, and the man standing in front of him, that's the safety, Luches Purifoy, which means a whole lot of open space in the middle. Nick Dembski's going to take the hole. Zach Collaros is going to spot him. So Winnipeg Blue Bombers take advantage of their second chance on this drive.
And Sergio Castillo in for the point after. Puts it through. 40-yard touchdown. Collaros to Dembski. 4th touchdown of the season for Nick Dembski on a 6-play, 71-yard drive. 7-0 Bombers.
Blue Bombers in this one. Zach Collaros opening play action. Finds Kenny Lawler. Little bit of drama as a suspected fumble. Overturned, remains Bomber ball, and Bombers make no mistake with a second chance. Short one to Carrick Wheatfall. Long one over the top to Nick Dembski to open the scoring. Bombers looking to keep a trend alive here, Rod.
Yes, in the 6-game winning streak, Wayne, they scored first in all 6, and they've scored first now as they're trying to push that streak to 7. Kicking off now, taken by Dylan Mitchell at the 15. Got a burst. Tries to get outside at the 30, 35, and getting up closer to the 40, taken down by Tanner Cadwallader, one of their leaders in special teams tackles. Here's McLeod. Bethel Thompson. He was benched for Trey Ford, but came on in the 4th quarter last week and was 5 for 10 in their 27-14 loss.
Yeah, and obviously Bethel Thompson has been the guy who has started most of this season for the Edmonton Elks. Trey Ford had taken over that job, but an uneven performance from the young Canadian last week.
And here's Justin Rankin, Dwayne, at 157 yards rushing last week, but Edmonton can't get anything going there. Winnipeg strong up front defensively. How about that Edmonton Elks offense?
Yeah, big group on that offensive line. David Foucault out of Montreal, former first-round pick, one of the leaders of that group. Big group that wants to get bodies on you. And speaking of big, 6'7", Canadian receiver Zach Mathis, first-round pick in the supplemental draft, makes his first career start for Edmonton here tonight.
So it's a 2nd and 8 from the Edmonton 40 for McLeod Bethel-Thompson, and he does get rid of it, but it is not hung on to there. It was intended for Rankin. It's dropped, and it's a 2-and-out for the Elks in their opening possession, down 7.
Interesting to see the difference between the two teams. Again, you heard Jim Barker talk in the opening about how neither team put up big numbers throwing the football last week, but both teams ran the ball effectively. Winnipeg comes out clearly anticipating that Edmonton's going to be playing hard against the run. They go play action, they throw the ball, they make their way down the field. Edmonton comes out trying to run. Winnipeg was all over it.
Top punter in the CFL, Jake Julian, his first punt in this game. Takes a roll there to Lucky Whitehead, who will only pick up a couple more yards. Many fans from northern Indigenous communities. We'll talk about that more as we mark National Day of Truth and Reconciliation in Winnipeg. Community impacts of residential schools and to promote the concept of every child matters. Lots of orange here at Princess Auto Stadium. This is in the warm-up, and those jerseys, by the way, are to be auctioned off with the proceeds going to Indigenous sport communities, Manitoba and Alberta as well. There's the Premier of Manitoba, Wab Canoe, taking part in the festivities before the game. You can see that with the singing of the national anthem and the coin toss as well.
This is a tails.
With the official National Day of Truth and Reconciliation coming up on Monday the 30th. Being recognized here in Winnipeg tonight and across the Canadian Football League. There's Brady Oliveira. Bombers with a 7-0 lead over Edmonton, and what a big day he had, as you talked about, Dwayne, last week in Edmonton.
Yeah, 18 for 127 for Oliveira. As you mentioned, breaking that goose egg in the touchdown column on his stats line. Scoring a pair last week.
2nd and 4 now after that 6-yard pickup by Brady Oliveira, the CFL's leading rusher, back in his hands. Got the first down and has more. Running hard, picking up where he left off at Commonwealth 1 week ago.
Keep an eye here on the right guard. Pat Neufeld blocking down. That's going to allow Brady Oliveira to bounce it back out to the right side. Couple of solid runs from Oliveira to get things going here on the Bombers' second possession.
They get it up to the 45. First quarter in Winnipeg. Start week 17. That's caught Ontario Wilson, one of their top receivers this year in his first year in the CFL. Another catch, another first down. The Bombers offense on the move again.
Ontario Wilson has found quick chemistry with quarterback Zach Collaros emerging as Winnipeg's leading receiver coming in this week. 844 yards through week 16.
And 15 more there. He gets it down to the Edmonton 50 on Wilson's first catch. Back to Brady. And Oliveira in a little second burst after a pickup of what looked to be about 5. He gets close to another first down, about 9 more yards.
Now once again, Bombers getting it done in the ground game. Oliveira looking to bounce wide. Nice cutback. Sounds like a football game down there.
Sure does. And we're down to short yardage. And Terry Wilson, as mentioned, now the number 2 QB with Chris Strebler hurt and handling the short yardage as he did before, and looks to have another first down inside the 40, which is about where they got to last possession before that one big play from Collaros to Dembski to get Winnipeg scoring started.
It'll be interesting to see, watching the Bombers. You mentioned Terry Wilson taking over that #2 quarterback role. Chris Streveler was a guy around whom they had built an entire offensive package.
Yeah.
Curious to see down the stretch if they're able to do something similar with Wilson.
Wilson had only 6 carries before this game. He still hasn't thrown a pass in his CFL career. Of course, just not getting the chances being at #3. And Clara's back in. Oliveira running hard again. Fired up too. Gets it down just outside the 30.
And once again, you're going to see Oliveira attack the right side, pick his hole, cut it back a little bit. In behind his guard, Pat Neufeld. Nice recovery there by center Chris Kolankowski. Coming back front side to get a block on that one.
Well, he had 127 last week in Edmonton. Already 4 carries, 33 yards for the Bombers. And this their second possession. Moving nicely down the field, trying to wrap up or clinch a playoff spot. They can do that with a win tonight. I think they started their season at 0-4. CFL's hottest team. And that time, Oliveira is stopped. Needed to get just inside the 30 on that second down run. And it did not happen. They got stopped.
Yeah, it looked like big Sean Oakman in the middle of that defense decided he had seen about enough.
Well, among the turnovers committed by Edmonton last week were turnovers on downs. No such 3rd and short here now. The field goal unit is out. Sergio Castillo with Jamison Sheehan to put it down. Squared up in the middle from the 39 for Castillo. Drifting right, but still safely through to put 3 more on the board. And a 10-0 lead. But for Edmonton's defense, just to stop this offensive momentum. A good stop for the Elks to limit Winnipeg to 3 that time.
Well, Justin Rankin has been something of a revelation for the Edmonton Elks since rejoining the team at the start of August. Had his second 100-yard game of the year, biggest yet. 14 carries, 157 yards. For those doing the math, that is over 11 yards a pop for the Edmonton running back. They've done a terrific job running the football.
And back at it again. All the momentum going his side. We talked to him about his running philosophy. First of all, loves the game, but also doesn't like being hit. He prefers to hit. He wants to be the hammer, not the nail.
Very much so. Yeah, he's going to initiate contact. Justin Rankin may not like getting hit, but he's certainly built for it.
Yeah.
Low center of gravity, stock. He tells us he trains with bodybuilders in the offseason in terms of the weight room, but in terms of his workout, works out as a receiver.
Trains as a receiver. It's interesting. Something he came up with. Running back here again. His 3rd carry of this game and up across the 50, and that's a first down for the Elks. Their first down of this game.
Edmonton, the top rushing team in the Canadian Football League. You've got 2 of the top 3 in this ball game in Edmonton and Winnipeg.
First down passing deep, too far. Tevin Jones, the intended target. And there's Terrell Ford in the coverage. Ford, a co-leader in interceptions this season as well. Back with the Bombers in that defense.
And get Jamal Woods back in the interior of that defense. Big defensive tackle, has a couple of sacks. Michael Ayers starts again for the injured Kyrie Wilson at the weak side linebacker spot. Keep an eye on Terrell Bonds, the boundary corner. We'll frequently see him matched up against Edmonton's leading receiver, Eugene Lewis.
From the Edmonton 51, second down, it is caught right near the first down marker. That is Tevin Jones. He'll actually be about a yard shy as we get closer to the 3-minute warning here. And a 3rd and short coming up here for Edmonton.
And here you'll see Tevin Jones gets to that first down marker. So linebacker widens. He just sits down in the area vacated. Bethel Thompson hits him. Set up this third and short play.
By the way, the 3-minute warning is for the half, but Wayne, as you know, I like to give you a warning when we're getting close to the end of the first quarter.
Yeah.
So we're under 3.
It, Rod.
Short yardage. Dakota Prukop. Did he get there? The ex-Bomber, who did this so well for Winnipeg. And he gets met right around the line of scrimmage. Could this be another turnover on downs committed by Edmonton? That happened to them last week. It is indeed. Winnipeg football. Prukop, the ex-Bomber, not able to get there. Winnipeg's defense stands strong. Late in the first quarter, they have a 10-0.
Attached to what this initiative does for your First Nation community.
It means a lot to our people. It means a lot to see these orange shirts all over. It means a lot to us because it brings healing and also it validates, you know, what happened in residential schools. So it gets bigger and better, and it's getting more exciting every time we do it. So it's good to be here.
Jake Trainer of EIC. Jake, would you just describe EIC's hand in allowing this, enabling this initiative to happen to get kids here?
Sure, our airline.
Bombers have scored. Hold that thought.
It is Carrick Wheatfall. Let you guys continue in a moment here, but Wheatfall comes up with a touchdown and second big passing play for the Bombers, 61 yards as Winnipeg increases its lead.
Yeah, again, taking advantage on a defense that's focused on stopping the ground game with Oliveira in the backfield. Everybody's got eyes focused on him. Backer's got to stay in the box. DB's late to bail. And Wheatfall.
And for Carrick Wheatfall, that is his first CFL touchdown. He did have a longest of 76 yards in Ottawa. You talked about that great breakout performance back in week 2 for Wheatfall as a Blue Bomber. The point after is good. Let's go back to John Liu.
About how EIC has enabled this initiative to happen and allow kids to come down from northern communities to enjoy the game on Truth and Reconciliation Weekend.
Sure, our airlines fly into each one of these communities up in the north, and over the last 24 hours we've flown in over 1,000 kids from remote northern communities. Giving back is a huge part of the EIC culture.
Thank you for this, gentlemen, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Perfect night for football.
Certainly is, John. Thank you. And yes, all those fans, and we've seen it the last few years, a great initiative to bring fans from northern communities here to watch this CFL game. And yes, the presence of orange very clear tonight in Winnipeg. And assuming they are Bomber fans, of course, they're liking what they see so far. It's been all Winnipeg in a 17-0 lead.
Terrific start here for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Balanced attack. We saw them come out throwing the football on their first possession, ran the ball heavily on their second possession, which resulted in a field goal. This time taking to the air again, going over the top. Put Edmonton deep in a hole to start this game.
Well, Carrick Wheatfall got deep in behind coverage and was nicely open for Collaros to hit him, and Edmonton Elks, a critical game for them tonight. They're in a hole. 17 points. Number 17 there, Dylan Mitchell on the return, and taken down shy of the 30.
Well, Wheatfall's the number 2 receiver, second in from the sideline here, and you're going to get a couple of verticals on that side, forcing the defenders to make a decision. Lawler going deep on the inside. Holds the halfback, Cordell Jackson, to the inside. He can't immediately get to that sideline to Wheatfall. And that split-second delay created by Lawler's presence allows Wheatfall and Collaros to connect.
McLeod Bethel Thompson hands off to Justin Rankin, trying to get him going. He had 3 carries for 13 yards leading into that one as we get closer to the end of the first quarter. But the net offense coming into this series, 184 Winnipeg to 23. That's it for Edmonton.
And the big thing from an Edmonton perspective is to remember where they are in the game. it is just the first quarter. A lot of football left to be played. They don't necessarily have to abandon their strength, which is their run game, to try and get 17 points back all at once. They've got lots of time. They do have to get some stops defensively to help out the Oaks.
It's a team that's second in net offense in the CFL. Quick hitter, and it falls incomplete. Intended for Curly Gittins Jr. with coverage there by Michael Griffin. So a 3rd and 6 coming up, and the Elks will have to punt again.
Curly Gittins is just going to hit a quick slant here. Bethel Thompson gets it in a decent spot. Initially it looked like it was a little low, but pretty good spot, but Gittins just unable to squeeze that.
So Jake Julian with another booming punt for Lucky Whitehead inside the Winnipeg 25, across the 30 and out of bounds at about the 36 for Whitehead. Fans calling for a flag. A little bit of contact as he was heading out of bounds. Brady Oliveira, CFL's rushing leader last year, CFL's leading rusher this year. Most rushing yards by a Canadian in a 3-year span, and he's right up there. Some terrific names too, of course, the great John Cornish, what he did with Calgary from 12 to 14. Andrew Harris, well known in these parts, and Normie Kwong as well.
Yeah, pretty magnificent company for Brady Oliveira in that top 4. All four of them posting 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Brady once again eclipsing that milestone last week against Edmonton.
So Winnipeg's offense can hardly do anything wrong right now, thanks in part to number 20. Some big passes by Collaros, first to Dembski and then to Wheatfall, but Oliveira ran well last week, got a couple of touchdowns, and running well so far tonight.
A terrific job here in the early going, being done by Bombers OC Buck Pierce, keeping Edmonton's defense off balance.
Their last loss in overtime in Toronto. Nearly won that game. Back in late July, but over 2 months ago now. Throwing, caught, first down, Lawler into Elks territory. That offense just keeps moving as we finish up the first 15. We're at quarter time on a Friday night in Winnipeg. And so far it is all Bombers trying to make it 7 straight wins and clinch a playoff spot. Offense in the last month and a half, they've really been shut down by Winnipeg. They were shut out in the first half last week, shut out so far in this game.
Yeah, and you have a sense in these back-to-back games that it's so much about who makes the better adjustments, who comes in responding best and anticipating what the other team is going to do. Well, you have to give that points for that to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in this one particularly. You look at what their defense has done. Justin Rankin, the run game, only 9 yards in that first quarter after Rankin went over 150 just a week ago. And offensively, I talked about that. Buck Pierce, magnificent in terms of that chess match in the early.
And he cuts it the other way, to the right. Dembski, great adjustment after he got the ball to get a huge pickup for Winnipeg, venturing deeper into the Bombers zone and down inside the 35.
Yeah, we've seen Nick Dembski in past years very involved in the run game. This one a little forward toss. Technically goes down as a pass, like a shovel, but Dembski shows those running back instincts from his youth. He's the guy at Oak Park in between Andrew Harris and Brady Oliveira.
A little fake to Dembski that time, and this time rolling right, looking deep, and a little bit too far for Lucky Whitehead, who'd gotten in behind Kai Gray as Collaros in that Bomber offense trying to make the deep ball work again.
Yeah, Collaros getting to the perimeter. Big Eric Lofton leading the way. Whitehead just using his speed straight down that sideline. Outside release and go. Gets in behind Gray, but needed Willie Jefferson's arms to pull that one in.
A little bit more height. So they'll go with 2nd and 10 now. The Edmonton 33. A little bit of pressure. Clarence dumps it off. Gets it down to Oliveira, who does a whole lot more with it. Brady Oliveira! Touchdown! Oh, what a run after the catch by Oliveira.
Well, Oliveira's the guy who's going to show up all over the highlight reels for this one. But this starts with a terrific effort from Zach Collaros to find him while under pressure. Collaros steps up, hits coming, takes one to deliver the ball to his running back. And Brady Oliveira just refuses to go down. How about the balance coming off that spin move?
Oliveira, 5-play, 74-yard drive, but he does a good chunk of it with that one catch and run. Castillo another point after. And it's an early rout so far in Winnipeg. The only thing in common from last week, the Elks in the first half don't have a point yet. It's 24-0 Winnipeg.
Well, you don't get touchdowns like that without a little help from your friends. Brady Oliveira starts off in the backfield. He's just going to leak out underneath. He's there as the outlet for Zach Collaros. Once he makes the catch, keep an eye front and center. Kenny Lawler, immediate reaction to recognize he's got to get a block. He takes on Marcus Lewis. That brings Oliveira to the next level. Number 20 does the rest.
A 24-point hole for the Elks. Dylan Mitchell on the return. And not much there. He's taken down shy of the 30. Oliveira, who didn't have a touchdown this season, incredibly, until last week. And then he got 2 on the ground, and now he has 1 through the air. And how about that? The chicken box. He had reason to bring that up last week. And
he and the Bombers must love that dance, because it took him until week 16 to get his first 2 touchdowns of the season. And now apparently visiting the chicken box on a weekly basis.
Back-to-back weeks, Oliveira's found the end zone. So Eugene Lewis and Rhett Cramdy reading his mail, taking him down. Lost yardage for Edmonton. It's that kind of night so far.
Yeah, Rhett Cramdy for me is one of the underrated stories in the Canadian Football League this season, having taken over that nickel linebacker spot on a full-time basis. Ranked 2nd on the Bombers behind only Evan Holm in defensive plays.
In his 4th year out of the Montreal Catavan program. 2nd and 11 after that loss. Bethel Thompson airing it deep. Over the middle. Had an open receiver in Zach Mathis with Jake Kelly covering him. A flag does come out, but it was a bit too far, falling incomplete. And the punting unit is coming on for Edmonton.
Edmonton number 65. That penalty is declined. It will be 3rd down.
So 4 possessions, 3 of them resulting in punts. Just 3 plays, and then the other one they moved a bit, 5-play drive, and turned it over on downs. Winnipeg's defense isn't giving them much. And a frustrating night so far for Jarius Jackson as Jake Julian's in to punt it again. Lucky Whitehead back inside the Winnipeg 25. Julian from Barrie, Ontario. Whitehead at the 30. Spins. Can't get much further, up around the 34. When Brady gets into the end zone, he does the chicken box. John Oliveira is not the kind of running back who dances to get into the end zone, but once he's there, you get the chicken box. Let's send it down to John Luke.
Yeah, Rod, and the idea for the chicken box was hatched on the Bombers' flight back from BC on August 18th. Lucky Whitehead was sitting with Brady Oliveira and Nick Dembski, and the flamboyant receiver in conversation couldn't believe that Oliveira hadn't scored a touchdown yet, so he made it his mission from that point on that when Brady O finally did score, that the offense would dance around like chickens. And so we've seen it now 3 times in the last 2 games, and Oliveira figures that, you know, it's going to catch on like wildfire here in Winnipeg because the native Winnipegger grew up going to Manitoba socials where the bird dance is a staple, so he feels like the chicken dance is certainly going to be no stretch for Winnipeg fans.
John, all of a sudden you mentioned the bird dance and that song. It's come into my head right now. That's all I'm thinking about. Well, Brady Oliveira, you know, in fairness to him, it wasn't so much the touchdowns. I guess you get in this day and age in offense, short yardage quarterbacks are the ones that score a lot of the TDs. Chris Streveler had a bunch.
Yeah, Chris Streveler in double digits in touchdowns, but with Streveler out of the lineup, the opportunity is there for the running back to finish a few drives himself.
Well, that last one that he got here, finished it from a long way away after catching a pass. Beautifully done. Collaros has time, and he was trying to get it into Kenny Lawler. The coverage there was good for the Elks, so that falls incomplete. That's the cover linebacker Derek Moncrief in there on Lawler.
Moncrief comes in, 1 interception on the season. Again, veteran, 31-year-old, arrived here after the start of the season as they looked at a little bit of experience to the Edmonton D. CFL All-Star back in 2019, West Division All-Star in 19 and 22.
Jamison Sheehan, the punter for Winnipeg, to the way just across his 20. Devondrick Bynum in on the returns. They've mixed things up in the return game as Bynum has that one. Well, they go back to McLeod, Bethel Thompson. Jarius Jackson had just gone to Trey Ford last game and then back to McLeod. Why?
Well, the rationale behind that is I just think he's given us more consistent play at the quarterback position, and he gives us the best opportunity to win. It's pretty much that simple. You know, I know quarterback can be definitely the most scrutinized position on the field, and you know, both guys have been, you know, have had their ups and downs throughout the season, but overall I think Mac has been the more consistent guy at the helmet quarterback for us this year.
Rankin the ball carrier, and it certainly didn't help that Edmonton turned the ball over 6 times last week.
Yeah, certainly has to be a consideration, that being such a determining factor in the outcome of ball games.
And that game, unlike this one, was very close in the first half. It was 3-0 Winnipeg last week at Commonwealth. They did open it up to 10 before the Elks responded, tied it at 10. Then in the fourth quarter, Winnipeg took over, won it 27-14. To improve to 8-6, the Elks fell to 5-9. 2nd and 5. Edmonton in a hole. That is caught. That's Dylan Mitchell inside the Bomber 50, and a first down for Edmonton.
Well, just a quick hitter here as the Elks look to finally get a little bit of traction here. Dylan Mitchell going to come down from the outside. Kevin Jones clears it out.
They're in the Bomber zone. Handing off to Rankin. Find some room to get it inside the 45 of Winnipeg. Set up a 2nd down.
Jordan Younger in his first season as Winnipeg's defensive coordinator, certainly enjoying some success. It's taken a little bit of time with a lot of new faces.
2nd and 6, and dumping it off in behind, and Rankin had to hang on to that ball. Taiwan Garbett picks it up. They'll let it play out. He'll take Now that pass was in behind for Rankin.
Yeah,
lost the handle.
And we'll get another look. Great decision by the officials to let it play out. And as a scoring play, it will be automatically reviewed. We'll see if this was in fact a lateral on the pass from Bethel Thompson to Rankin. Okay, so we'll see where Bethel Thompson is when he throws this football.
Play is under review.
It certainly appears that that ball traveled back slightly towards the Edmonton goal line on the pass.
And never did have possession. So that's a fumble. Here's a decision from the command center.
Upon review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. That was a backward pass. We get a touchdown.
If it can go wrong, it will go wrong for the Elks so far in this game tonight. Just the opposite for Winnipeg. Taiwan Garbett. You look at that pass again and see why it was a free ball for the Bombers to pick up.
Yeah, and here you'll see Bethel Thompson kind of steps up as he looks to the outlet. Rankin just slightly behind him, maybe about half a yard or a yard behind him. But the officials in position to see that, make the right call.
At first glance, Dwayne, but the only hope for Edmonton here is if Rankin somehow had recovered the ball and then it squirted out, in which case they could have ruled he had possession and was down, but he never did get that possession back. So Winnipeg's defense gets in on the scoring act. It is 31-0.
Here we'll take another look at the latest Winnipeg touchdown. This one courtesy of their defense. Bethel Thompson leaping forward, trying to throw it back to his running back. Ball travels backwards from the line of scrimmage. That is a lateral. Rankin unable to come up with it on the ground. Garbett does.
And the chicken box is catching on. Dylan Mitchell on the return for Edmonton. But yeah, fans here, many reasons to celebrate so far. We're just halfway through the second quarter, and it's a 31-0 Winnipeg game. This is part one of the doubleheader, and a big one in Vancouver tonight for both the Ticats and Bo Levi Mitchell, and also against the BC Lions. Second behind Winnipeg in the West, coming in by 2 points. But remember, the Bombers have the season series, and they're looking good tonight. The Ticats, they've been winning lately, 3 in a row, and they need to keep that winning going to keep their playoff hopes alive. Bethel Thompson off to the right to Mitchell, who's pushed out of bounds there by Tyrell Ford. Hit hard as he had to go up high to get that one.
Tyrell Ford owning that field side corner. This time Dylan Mitchell lined up on the outside. Ford playing off a little bit, runs that quick out. But you see, with the time it takes for the ball to travel that distance out to the wide side, the speed of Tyrell Ford gets him there quickly to make the hit.
From the Edmonton 45, Rankin breaks through. This is what they need. Waiting for a block from Gittins as he cuts it back inside. And the biggest run of the night, the biggest play offensively for the Edmonton Elks, sees Rankin take it down inside the Bomber 20.
I love the response here after some adversity, and Justin Rankin in the middle of that play that led to the Bomber touchdown responds beautifully here. Nice patience there just to allow the hole to open up. Edmonton suddenly has their biggest play of the evening, and they are in scoring territory.
A gain of 47 yards for Justin Rankin. Starting running back tonight. Gets it down to the Winnipeg 18. The toss for Tevin Jones. And not much there, as he may have lost a yard, still just inside the 20.
Well, we mentioned Justin Rankin Released in camp by the Edmonton Elks. Numbers situation, and he actually, in training camp, primarily played as a receiver, our receiver, that inside slot to the wide side. But a running back in college, and in most of his time, as you saw in his tour of the indoor football league.
That one's caught. Zach Mathis.
First CFL catch for Mathis,
who has Canadian status from North Dakota State. He played his college ball.
Yeah, always powerhouse program in FCS football. North Dakota State. Mathis, part of 3 national championships.
But down 31 points. And yes, I know still first half, but Boris Beatty does come on, so they're going to, by the looks of things, settle for 3 on a 3rd and 2. Despite the huge Winnipeg lead, choosing not to go for it, just trying to get on the board. Beatty was 2 for 2 last week, and he is 1 for 1 in the night. First points is finally that shutout in the first half comes to an end, as it's now a 31-3 game.
A big run there from Justin Rankin sets them up to get points. This is a guy, there's no question, what drives Edmonton's newest running back.
And there isn't, I was just going to say, not much question is all. Here's what he had to say when asked about what makes him a good running back.
I love football. You know, that's the best way to describe it. I know a lot of guys say, like, you know, the hungry, but I just love football. And I think at the end of the day, like, you always meet someone that may love football more than you, and it shows on the football field. You know, and that's the best way I could describe it, is I love football a lot more than a lot of people.
Pretty simple. Straightforward, the way he runs. It's Winnipeg ball now, still with a 4-touchdown lead, 28 points. But Rankin, Jarius Jackson, we asked about him too. I mean, they had Kevin Brown, you see, just in behind him. I mean, remember, they have Javon Leake as well. So Rankin, in a kind of a numbers game, was cut. But Jarius Jackson, when he took over as interim head coach, and with Kevin Brown hurt, jumped at the chance to bring him back.
Yeah, looking for a running back, and bearing in mind, Javon Leake was originally primarily brought in as a return guy. So they needed some depth at that position, even if Leake was going to play a little bit. So they brought back Rankin, who had been there and whom they really liked, but just didn't have a spot for him out of camp.
Lars throwing again. It's dropped there, intended for Derek Wheatfall. Is going to do his push-ups. Got his first CFL touchdown earlier in this half, but he's paying for it now after that one hits the turf.
Yeah, Derek Wheatfall at 111 yards in his first CFL game. He got on the roster in week 2 after Kenny Lawler was injured in the Bombers season opener. Then Wheatfall got injured a week later. It wasn't until last week that he got back into the lineup again.
They've dealt with a lot of injuries. Every CFL team has. Winnipeg certainly had its share. Punting, taken by Mitchell. Dylan Mitchell stopped in his tracks shy of the 30. Well, you got Rankin, you got Kevin Brown, you got Javon Leake. Leake's already over 500, and Rankin, that was coming in at 455. He's over 500 now. Kevin Brown just 22 yards shy. You know how long it's been since one team's had 3 running backs that all went over 500 yards?
Since 1966, Ron Smith.
You know your history. Do you know what team or teams?
Well, I'd be cheating because I think it just said at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, there it is. Sorry. Yeah, it did say that. We had that one all locked and loaded. Yeah, but I wanted to see if you were paying attention. There'll be a test on this later. Yes, it was Edmonton, and it was Hamilton as well. But that's remarkable. All these years later, and if Brown does get in the game and pick up 22 yards, they could reach that level tonight. But it's not exactly conducive to a running game given the score. 3 minutes until halftime. Hear from Laura Dyken and the panel back in studio in this Friday Night Football doubleheader. Up later, it's the Ticats and the Lions. Close to halftime.
Preparing for halftime. Got a new coach's playbook. We've seen a lot of clucking in Winnipeg so far. Winnipeg making a statement. All right, Rod, Dwayne, you got to finish us up here. Cluck, cluck.
Hey, Laura, we're hoping to see the chicken box, all of you, doing that tonight, including Lapo, during his preparation. Halftime coming up. Thoughts on this one? A lot of positive thoughts, I'm sure, about what Winnipeg's done. Not so much for Edmonton, trying to just work their way a little closer. That won't help. It's intended for Tevin Jones. It falls incomplete. So a third down is coming up. Just all Bombers. Biggest offensive play, one of them for Edmonton, that long run by Rankin to set up a field goal. But aside from that,
yeah, it's going to be critical here late in the first half for the Edmonton defense to shut the door.
Lucky Whitehead. The Julian punt gets it up to the 30. So that offense has had quite a night and coming back on the field. And you see the logo with the orange on the officials' jerseys. Each animal on that logo represents a teaching used as a guideline to go through life in a good way. Once again, commemorating the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, which is officially on Monday, the 30th, and that pin as well. The child's handprint from a local Indigenous child to represent that every child matters. And lots of fans here from northern communities brought here to a CFL game. There's Carrick Wheatfall, who does have the catch, hangs onto that and hit by Cordell Jackson.
We mentioned Wheatfall coming back into the lineup, picking up where he left off. You think about the job done by 3 first-year guys in that Bomber receiving core. Ontario Wilson, leading receiver for the Bombers on the season. Wheatfall has been terrific when he's been in. And of course, the rookie Canadian Kevin Sklercius as well, picking up the slack with the injury to Drew Wolodarski.
2nd and 5. Another deep look. Down the left and open. Dembski picks it up. Oh, what a catch. Down inside the 30. Like Dembski. Back in the first quarter, he hauled in a 40-yarder for a touchdown. What a grab.
I love the adjustment to the ball here from Nick Dembski. He's the number 3 receiver, inside man to the left side of the formation, working towards the corner. The ball is a little bit short, so he's got to flatten it off, but watch how he dives for it. Looks like he kept it off the turf as the defender Marcus Lewis overran it, allowing Dembski to pick up a couple more yards.
Well, it can't be challenged now, Dwayne. They've already run another play. Have another look.
And knowing it was close, he kept his hands underneath that one.
That was just a beautiful grab.
Yeah, tremendous concentration there.
Well, the Bombers not taking any chances anyway. Went tempo to get another play off. And a gain of another 5 yards, or call it 4. 2nd and 6 coming up at the Edmonton 25, looking to pad that substantial lead before halftime. 1:40 on the clock here at Princess Auto Stadium, 31-3. Colaros, time again to take a shot. That one falls shy. The defender, Kai Gray, had fallen down. Closest receiver was Dembski, but it kind of fell down in between them.
Yeah, looked like similar kind of thing. You're going to see the pressure coming from the recently returned AC Leonard. Reintroducing himself to Zach Colaros. Leonard ending a semi-retirement?
It seemed like that. It's disappeared for a while before going back to Edmonton. He was their sacks leader last year. Sergio Castillo. Another field goal. More points on the board for Winnipeg. With 1:26 to go until halftime, and back to a 31-point lead. Laura and Enoch and Ches and Coach Barker as well. Some thoughts. Little chicken box coming up. Lapo's there too.
I was going to say, yeah.
How come Lapo didn't get on the board?
We're told Lapo was not welcome by the rest in their promo shop.
Lapo's got the side gig.
Yes.
All by himself. And he's still working hard getting ready for that. So incomplete pass. Zach Mathis got his first CFL catch a little earlier.
So again, Mathis is essentially Edmonton's first-round pick in 2025. They took an advance, selecting him in the supplemental draft this year. They give up their first-round pick in next year's Canadian draft.
2nd and 10. Bethel Thompson to the right. It is caught. First down in across the 50 towards midfield. 1:15 on the clock as they hurry up over the ball.
Yeah, I mean, we talked before the last Winnipeg possession about the fact that Edmonton needed to shut the door. They couldn't give up points to let this margin get any wider before the break. Well, now it puts the pressure on their offense. They've got to respond here.
Deep shot. Open receivers Mitchell, but too far. Well, in the last game, after the game against Calgary, which Edmonton won, and Bethel Thompson started, they were heading into a bye, Dwayne, and shortly after, Jarius Jackson made it clear he's going back to Trey Ford. Yeah. After last week, goes back to McLeod Bethel Thompson. But, you know, with a 31-point game, do we see Trey Ford in the second half?
Well, you think about the first real action we saw from Trey Ford this year against Hamilton. They were in a deep hole. Ford led them on something of a comeback late in that football game.
Hard hit on Curly Gittins there. Reddick Ramsey on him as we had a minute to go till halftime.
If you're Edmonton, you wonder if lightning may strike twice, if Trey Ford may be able to provide that kind of a spark. But I mean, big picture, you heard Jarius Jackson talk about why he went back to McLeod Bethel Thompson. Feels he's more consistent, their best chance to win right now.
Checking it down to Rankin. Jake Kelly's there to make sure he goes no further on that first down play. Still outside the 40, 51 seconds until halftime.
Certainly an interesting discussion and something you've got to consider. I mean, this is part of the benefit of having two quarterbacks who can play and in whom you have some faith. They give some different looks.
At the 42, they run a draw to Rankin. Going nowhere, Jamal Woods has him wrapped up. Cramby helps out too. So a third down coming up.
Reddick Cramby, 16th overall pick back in 2021. Pretty good luck for Winnipeg in round 2. Picked Terrell Ford in the second round a year later, and you've got the two of them starting in what you would call non-traditional Canadian positions on defense.
Halftime's getting closer. Under half a minute. Third down. Caught. First down. It's Gittins with it. Down about the 23 of Winnipeg. See if they can find the end zone before halftime.
Yeah, Curly Gittins working out of the slot. He's just going to attack the middle here. Nice job throttling down instead of running into the safety.
And that one thrown into the line of scrimmage. Got away on Bethel Thompson.
It almost looked like he went to throw that one and maybe second-guessed himself. Complete pass. Gets the clock stopped. Big 2nd and 10 play here for the Elks.
Sellout crowd at Princess Auto Stadium with a lot to cheer about. Second down, caught. Eugene Lewis. And just 5 seconds winds down to that. And Looks like the field goal unit's coming on. Boris Beatty's coming on just to get something to show for it instead of going for it on third and what would be quite likely the final play of the first half. So
yeah, you look at the couple of times that Edmonton has been down here, they've opted for field goals. You wonder, given the deficit, why they're not going for the end zone. I think part of it, quite frankly, is it would be demoralizing to come away with nothing when you get down here. You got to chip away, take what you can get to eat into this lead. Still with a whole half of football to be played.
Boris Beatty's 2 for 2. Still a big job to do in the second half for the Edmonton Elks, getting it back to a 28-point game. So many things that went well for Winnipeg, including Brady Oliveira picking up where he left off back at Commonwealth.
Yeah, a little bit of momentum for the Bombers running back. Third consecutive 1,000-yard season. 127 yards for him last week on 18 carries. And looking to be feeling it again here tonight. This was the biggest of his highlights, picking up the short pass from Zach Collaros and fighting his way into the end zone, and he is now fought his
downs one drive at a time. Then we're speculating on Trey Ford. Jarius Jackson made it clear. McLeod Bethel Thompson still at quarterback for Edmonton. This second half begins. Dylan Mitchell with the ball. Across the 30, across the 35, 40. He's got a good return going here. Midfield. So in this long road to a comeback, 4 touchdowns down, at least a good start on special teams, with Bethel Thompson getting last-second instructions there from Jarius Jackson.
Yeah, for the first 10 seconds of the second half are any indication.
There you go.
The Elks got the message at halftime. Big boost from special teams. Short field, clock-friendly start, we'll call it, for a team that needs to get some points in a bit of a hurry now if they're going to make a comeback.
All those cliches, 40, one play at a time, one drive at a time. That's the life of the Elks right now here in week 17, and a very critical game for them too, but not going their way so far. Starting it off on the ground. You do wonder too how much, despite the abilities of Justin Rankin, how much Edmonton will be able to afford to run the ball too much before they have to just simply air it out down so much.
A good hard run there from Justin Rankin to pick up about 7 on first down. Watch Terrell Ford coming in at the end of this one. Just deliver a bit of a pop. The combination of the momentum of Rankin and I believe it was Brandon Alexander that had him wrapped up gave Ford a bit of a ride.
Rankin has 10 carries for 75 yards, has the ball again in a shorter gain. Of course, much of that 75, over half of it, 47 yards coming in that big run in the second quarter, late in the first half. Third down coming up. They're still 2 yards shy. Offense stays out.
Yeah, have to in this situation. Obviously, with each successive possession for Edmonton, a little more of a time crunch, and the need to keep the football and be a little bit more aggressive with their shots.
Bethel Thompson stays in this third and short. Gambling, they have to. Not much of a gamble with this score. And Winnipeg nearly got Rankin, but he broke away from Celestin Haba, and he's got something big going. Finally pushed out inside the Bomber 15. Had Haba been able to hang on, would have been a turnover on downs instead of big first down to start this second half for Edmonton.
Snatching of first down from what looked like a sure turnover. Haba, and a complete bust in the blocking scheme, left completely untouched. But Rankin able to avoid being taken down. Haba's through here full speed. Justin Rankin's just not a guy you can tackle up high. So powerful. And if you couldn't read Jordan Younger's lips, that was come on.
So back to Rankin. Breaks a tackle, breaks another, but still losing yardage. Just being swarmed by one Winnipeg defender after another, and finally they do take him down and push the Elks back to a second and long now, just outside the Winnipeg 15.
Bombers certainly came in having adjusted and prepared for the Edmonton run game.
2nd and 13, Bethel Thompson. He dumps it down to Rankin, who's tackled nicely by Reddick Cramdy to prevent him from breaking free to the end zone. Another 3rd down is coming up, so you're an easy chip shot field goal range, but we're talking about 3 points instead of the need for 7. And 3rd down, and the offense staying on. No sign of Boris Beatty. No, not thinking field goals here. Touchdown or bust.
And combination of factors here as we look at the difference between this decision and the decision on 3rd downs in the first half. You're that much closer to the goal line and a shot at a touchdown. You can get a 1st down without scoring, and you're that much closer to the end of the game.
So here we go. A quick look, and then waiting. End zone, touchdown. Gino Lewis has it. And a flag is out in the Bomber end zone. As the Elks wait and see if it's coming back.
I think they're going to suggest that Gino Lewis pushed off of the defender here.
Illegal contact on the receiver. Winnipeg number 37. That penalty is declined.
And it is a touchdown. And just what the Elks need. Still down a bunch, but as said, one at a time, and the best possible way to open up the second half for Edmonton.
Gino Lewis playing out wide on the line of scrimmage. He's working against Terrell Bonds here. Just sitting it down. Yeah, it looked like the Winnipeg defense was celebrating after hearing the call down at field level. But clearly,
the Bombers thought it was against Edmonton.
Yeah, I mean, there was clearly nothing offensively there.
So Boris Beatty comes on now. See if they can turn 6 into 7. Much needed points. That's just to get them to within 21 after a 6-play drive. Well, 34-13, still in a big hole, just not quite as deep. Starting the second half with a touchdown drive. Gino Lewis has it on a 6-play, 51-yard drive. Touchdown drive, just what the Elks needed. And Rankin, he's actually racking up the yardage, kind of getting things started for Edmonton.
Yeah, and he's obviously the straw that stirs their offensive drink is getting that ground game going. Winnipeg has defended it well, but Rankin making the most of a couple of big runs. Missed tackle in the backfield kept this drive going. Eugene Lewis finishes this one off, but let's also give credit to Dylan Mitchell in a big kickoff return that gave them good field position to start things off.
So here's Lucky Whitehead at the 15-20 on that kick return up across the 25. Well, that's one part of the equation for Edmonton. What the offense can do differently. But what can the defense do differently against an offense that has just pretty well marched down the field and scored it at will?
Yeah, this is big. They've got to get some stops. You heard Jarius Jackson talk about the big plays that they gave up, those corner routes. I know much discussion in studio at halftime about who's responsible for getting over the top. The halfbacks making those adjustments. So Jason Shiver's looking to get his guys all on the same page here and turn the fortunes of this Edmonton D in the second half.
Elks getting a little bit closer after Eugene Lewis got his 7th touchdown of the season. Still lots of work to do, especially on defense too. Winnipeg's first possession of the second half. Brady Oliveira, the ball carrier. He had 47 yards on 9 carries in the first half, and a big run for a touchdown after his one and only catch at 33 yards for a touchdown.
And we talked about Winnipeg mixing it up offensively in the first half and basically playing into Edmonton's stop-the-run mindset, which you knew was going to be first and foremost in their minds after Oliveira's 127-yard performance last week. They took advantage of that. You heard Enoch at halftime talk a little bit about the RPOs, suck them in with a run look, throw the ball over their heads. I think now, into the second half of this ball game, with a big lead, Winnipeg will largely be content to hand the ball off as much as possible.
And they do again to Oliveira on a 2nd and 3, and he has more than enough to move those sticks. He gets it up across the Winnipeg 40, and not going to be much Edmonton can do if they can't stop number 20 tonight.
Oliveira is continuing to produce. You see his offensive line creating space for him to do his thing.
Doing his thing oh so well all season, but really in these last 2 weeks. That big game in Edmonton, and another big one here tonight. 3 touchdowns in his last game and a half. Starting this second half now in a 1st and 10. Off to the left. It's caught by Lawler. Are you watching this? Kenny Lawler grabs with that one hand, brings it in. And any momentum that Edmonton had to start the second half, Winnipeg starting to suck the life out of it.
A healthy Kenny Lawler, that's ridiculous.
Working quickly too, faking the handoff to Oliveira and then throwing again to Ontario Wilson. No quit in this Bomber offense as he stays in bounds and gets it inside the 25. And has a few words for Luchez Purifoy afterwards. Here comes Winnipeg again.
Yeah, and again, we said this after Edmonton scored. Now the defense needs to get stops. I mean, the Lawler play is above and beyond. Watch the one-handed stab here from the veteran receiver.
What an amazing catch by Lawler.
Crazy, and overshadowing the terrific escape down the sideline by Ontario Wilson on the next play.
A pickup of 21 yards to get it inside where they spot the ball at the Edmonton 29. Oliveira. Finally, a stop. DC Leonard got his arms around him, but still Oliveira manages to push for a couple more yards. 2nd and long coming up.
And even getting a stop here, it's too little too late from an Edmonton point of view. You're letting Winnipeg run time off the clock, letting them get into scoring position.
And just from an emotional point of view, even if it is just they drive down for a field goal, it's certainly any momentum that the Elks felt that they might have had and desperately needed is disappearing here. Caleros rolls out, finds a receiver inside the 10. It's Kevin Clercius with the catch, and a 1st and goal. Winnipeg coming up.
We talked about the Bombers' success in the 2nd round of the draft. Retta Cramdy, Terrell Ford. How about Kevin Clercius, 13th overall pick. This year has stepped into a starting role for much of the season with Drew Wolodarski on the injured list.
End zone touchdown, Lawler. Isn't it fitting? With the most amazing play of the night that he caps it off with 6 more points for Winnipeg.
After his last catch, the touchdown's almost a bit of a letdown. But no doubt the Bombers happy to take the 6 points here. Caleros to Lawler.
He decided to use 2 hands on that one.
Yeah.
One's all he needed earlier in the drive.
And that's how we do. That's how we do.
Castillo. 7 more Winnipeg. Just as Edmonton had finally put a quick 7 on the board. That's how they do it. That's how Lawler does it. One hand will do. Winnipeg still leading big. One more time, let's have a look at this amazing catch by Kenny Lawler, Dwayne.
Yeah, the one-handed stab. Cordell Jackson's laying out thinking he's going to catch the ball. And Lawler just sticks out one big mitt to pull it in. The completion. Watch Edmonton running back Justin Rankin on the sidelines. And the look on his face.
That look says, what are you going to do? You're catching passes like that. And so again, and Mitchell on the return. Last time they had the ball, they opened up with a touchdown drive, but that got taken right back. Kenny Lawler. Zach Collaros was 4 for 4 on that drive. In Winnipeg, it has been all Bombers with a couple of exceptions. The last time McLeod, Bethel Thompson, the Elks offense were on the field, they moved down for their first touchdown of the night, but they're still trailing by 4 TDs as it's back to Justin Rankin, who has over 100 yards rushing, one big one on 47 yards. But again, how much can they afford to be running the football as this game wears on, and they've got to score quickly?
Yeah, it's a fine line, because the fact is their biggest plays have come with Justin Rankin running the football, and they need yardage in chunks, but playing the odds, yeah, they got to put it in the air a little bit here in the second half.
Case in point, that successful drive for the touchdown took 5 minutes off the clock. 2nd and 5. Bethel Thompson, lots of time. He looks right. Oh, one great catch deserves another. It's Gino Lewis's time to snag one in. Not quite what Lawler did, but still very impressive going down the rail to pick up that first down for the Elks.
Yeah, great little pump and go down the sideline here. Fake by Lewis. There was a pump fake at that moment by Bethel Thompson. Quarterback drops it in there perfectly. And we have the second best one-handed catch of the night by Eugene Lewis for a big Edmonton game.
And Lawler's loving that. Remember, Lawler briefly, I mean, the Elks had signed some big-name receivers. First Lawler had a year before going back to Winnipeg, and then they brought in Gino Lewis, who was great in Montreal. Play-action fake and a 1st and 10 at the Winnipeg 27, and down goes Bethel Thompson. He is sacked by Michael Ayers, filling in for Kyrie Wilson in weak side linebacker spot, and the first sack of the season for Ayers.
Yeah, the guy who contains Bethel Thompson on this play is the halfback and one of the best in the business in Dietrich Nichols. Watch for Nichols, number 1, playing in the box here. He's going to step up. He's got contained. You see him force Bethel Thompson back to the inside. That slows him up. Allows Michael Ayers to track him down from behind. Terrific job understanding the defensive scheme by Nichols.
Loss of 7. 2nd and long. Bethel Thompson under pressure again. Tony Jones nearly had him. He forced him to get it away, and it falls short of Lewis. So a 3rd and 17 coming up here for the Elks.
Well, Tony Jones, such a monster. Ball in the air, and Bonds preventing Lewis from getting back to the ball. Here's the official ruling.
Upon review, the ruling on the field is overturned. We've got defensive pass interference. Winnipeg number 24. The ball will be placed at the 23-yard line. 1st down.
So a successful challenge for Jarius Jackson in the pass interference. They spot the ball down inside the Winnipeg 25. 1st down, marking it right at the 23. 41-13. Still a 28-point difference. This is Edmonton's 2nd possession of the second half. The first possession resulted in a touchdown, but Winnipeg marched right back. We're back up to 4 touchdowns again. Caught down inside the 5. That is Gino Lewis. Took a hit in a crowd. Brandon Alexander coming in, and it'll be a 1st and goal coming up here for Edmonton.
Yeah, leading on Gino Lewis here. He's just slanting to the middle, and he knows he's heading into the danger zone. The always physical Brandon Alexander coming, but Gino catches it, protects himself, picks up 1st down, 1st and goal for the Elks.
From the 5, end zone, touchdown, Tevin Jones. So 2 possessions for Edmonton in the second half, both resulting in major scores, as they get it back to within 3 touchdowns, and the 5th touchdown of the season for Tevin Jones.
And they're just going to clear out the inside, bring Tevin Jones on the slant, open up a box for him. Jones, big target. This is a guy who's on that same list as Justin Rankin of terrific in-season additions. Jones went to camp with Montreal after being with Saskatchewan last year. He was released. Edmonton wanted some depth in their receiving core. He's been a terrific addition, averaging about 25 yards a catch for them this season.
And I say it's his 5th receiving touchdown. He does have one running, too, at one in the Labor Day rematch against the Stampeders at Commonwealth, a 13-yard run.
I love this play concept on the touchdown. Zach Mathis is just going to widen, and the purpose of that is to get Retta Cramdy out of the box. You clear him out of there, and that clears the exact spot that Tevin Jones is going to run into on the slant. So Mathis's sole job, create space for your buddy. And there's Tevin Jones for the major. Nice execution there by the Elks. Good play call.
So they get closer again on that 6-play, 74-yard drive in under 3 minutes, which is another important thing, too, when we talk about time they're taking off the clock. Tevin Jones, who started his CFL career with Saskatchewan, for, as you mentioned, Montreal. So, yeah, the offense waking up, but again, we point out, unless the defense can stop Collaros and company, there's no sign of that yet. It's a moot point. 41-20 to score, a 21-point lead again for Winnipeg. Beatty with the kickoff. Whitehead inside the 10. 20. Finds an opening. Lucky Whitehead. Beatty pushes him out. Last chance for Edmonton. Otherwise, Whitehead could have been gone.
The burst of Lucky Whitehead. This is how it all began for him in the CFL, returning kicks here in Winnipeg. Saw his role as a receiver expand during his time here, and certainly his years as a BC Lion. Happy to be back in blue and gold.
Gets it up for that offense to start at their own 48. Collaros, Oliveira. And he works to get his yardage closer to midfield. He's got about 5 more. Maybe a bit more than that. Always falling forward is Brady Oliveira. And has a way of picking up yards, Dwayne, when you think you've got him around the line of scrimmage or for a 1 or 2 yard gain.
Yeah, combination of power, speed, elusiveness, and you know, with experience comes a level of patience as well, letting those blocks develop.
13 carries, 68 yards, over 5 yards per. Pump fake, deep look again. Lawler again, waits for it, takes it in. Another big first down for Winnipeg, and another big connection to 89. This Bomber offense has been relentless tonight.
You're watching this ball in the air going, can the receiver get there? Can he catch it? And then you kind of think, oh yeah, it's Kenny Lawler. Sure thing. Another great grab for number 89.
Marcus Lewis coming in at the end. Contact to the head there with Lawler down, and yeah, a lot of frustration for Edmonton's defense that just cannot find a way of stopping the blue and gold in this night. Play fake, dumping it off. More positive yardage. Kevin Clarcius lowers the boom there on Kai Gray. Big collision. The rookie Clarcius inside the 15.
And that physicality is one of the things that stood out about Kevin Clarcius when you look at his film in college. This isn't a guy who had a ton of catches during his time at UConn, but could get involved in protection schemes, run blocking schemes, blocking after the catch, and in the screen game, etc. Physicality. I think this is a guy who's got a terrific upside as a receiver in this league.
Terry Wilson in for short yardage, has more than enough, works it down closer to the 10. A first down again coming up for Winnipeg. Their responses after Edmonton touchdowns, every bit as impressive as all the work they did in the first half.
Yeah, and you know, I think it speaks a little bit to the attitude of the Bombers team in general. When you think about their start, 0-4, 1-5 to start the season, but Mike O'Shea never flinched.
No.
Never made big changes, never looked to make a big roster move, bringing in somebody from the outside, because he has confidence in the process. And here you see the same thing on a smaller scale within a game. You may have take some shots.
It's interesting. That's the word he used, Dwayne, too, when we talked to him before they faced Ottawa when they were 0-4, about any panic setting in, anything like that. And calm as he always is, shook his head and did say that. It's about the process. They have to trust it.
Yeah,
and
100%.
my goodness. And so far, they are closing in on their 7th straight victory. Edmonton can score. They're just having trouble preventing the score. Point Winnipeg lead, threatening to add more, and really have to be impressed, especially in the second half, Dwayne, by Winnipeg's offense and just diffusing any of that Edmonton momentum. And look at the total of passing yards now for Zach Collaros.
Yeah, starting to pile up for Zach. He's reached a season high at 374 yards through the air. Obviously, Brady Oliveira continuing to chip in as well. But yeah, like we talked about just before the break, I mean, they may give up a play here or there, but it doesn't knock the Winnipeg Blue Bombers back on their heels. They just keep coming. They just keep doing their thing in response, making plays, putting up points.
And they've worked their way right back down after another Edmonton touchdown. They responded the first time with a touchdown to Kenny Lawler. This is in the second half, and then they've come back to start the fourth quarter deep in the Elks zone, down at the 11-yard line, and a 2nd down and 10 coming up here for Winnipeg. It's Carrick Wheatfall, a touchdown in this game earlier. Collaros. Nemski, 5, touchdown. Just like that. The Bombers are saying, yeah, go ahead and score a touchdown. We're just going to come back and score another one anyway.
And what a beautiful move by Nick Dembski after he catches the football here. It's him and Niles Morgan in space. Morgan, one of the top tacklers in the Canadian Football League, and Dembski just freezes him. To go into the end zone untouched.
The 5th touchdown of the season for Nick Dembski, is 2nd of the night. He had a 40-yard touchdown catch to get things started for the Bombers way back in the first quarter. They just keep pouring it on, and a point after try away from making it a 28-point lead again. For Castillo is having a very busy night in terms of kicking converts. 6 plays, 62 yards in just over 3 minutes. And again, Bombers answer right back.
Yeah, Nick Dembski just working underneath. Gives a little stutter step to beat one defender, high step over another. And he's got his 2nd touchdown of the night. The Bombers just keep coming.
Zach Collaros, who got his career started with the Toronto Argonauts back in 2012. And we've always mentioned the quarterback room that included Ricky Ray and Trevor Harris, but also Jarius Jackson, who was the #2 behind Ricky Ray that year. And we asked both of them about how well they knew each other back for that 1 year. And Collaros was effusive in his praise for how much of a mentor Jarius Jackson was to him.
Yeah, love Jarius Jackson. Had an awareness of him certainly from Jarius's time as a star quarterback at Notre Dame. A big-time guy. So, you know, for Zach Collaros as an Ohio kid, this was someone that, growing up in the Midwest, he looked up to,
absolutely
aspired to be, and suddenly found himself as a teammate.
Well, Collaros didn't really know of Ricky Ray very much when he came into the league, who'd gone to Sacramento State. But yeah, you're right. He knew who Jarius Jackson was. Here's Dylan Mitchell on the return. Gets up across the 40, and then a gang of Bombers to take him down. But here's what Jarius Jackson had to say about his 1 year. He was a roommate on the road back in the Argo days with young Zach Collaros.
Like I said, he was down. He didn't really know if he wanted to stay here in the Canadian Football League or go back to the States and do something else. And I just kind of talked to him and just basically told him, hey, I'm not going to be here long. I can promise you that. I think there's definitely going to be an opportunity here. You have a great skill set, and I think you're a guy that could last in this league a long time. And he had the opportunity to learn under some guys that have made a difference in this league, and you see what he's been able to come out and do himself over the last 12 years.
And the rest, as they say, is history. McLeod Bethel-Thompson throwing, and no, incomplete. There in the turf intended for Mitchell. But Calera's talking about it too, and as Jarius Jackson had said, he's not going to be around long. That was his only year with the Argos, and he retired. He went into coaching with BC, and Calera's became the #2 behind Ricky Ray. Ended up playing a lot in 2013 and got him a free agent deal in Hamilton.
Yeah, and you look back. Jarius Jackson, who had come from BC, told Zach Collaros he reminded him a little bit of Travis Lulay in terms of the way he played. Lulay having been Grey Cup champion and MOP the year before with the BC Lions.
Off the fingertips, the intended receiver, Tevin Jones. Third down coming up, and this time on third down, still in their own zone, Jake Julian comes on to punt it away.
You look at that story and think how prophetic it proves to be as Zach Collaros goes on to win a couple MOP awards and Grey Cups of his own as a starter in this league. But the two of them still keep in regular contact, and just a great relationship that's lasted through the years.
It's interesting how coaches, players cross paths in their careers. Julian, the punt, on our panel tonight is Jim Barker, who's the GM of that 2012 Argos team. But that's one angle, the Jarius Jackson angle, that we never really talked much about on that star-studded team, and how close that relationship was. A couple old quarterbacks. Well, he's not old yet, and he was just a kid then, learning from Jarius Jackson. We'll be back in Winnipeg. Not a friend tonight at Jarius Jackson's, is he?
Making life a little difficult for Jarius tonight. The way he's been airing out the football, getting all of his receivers involved. A lot of big plays for Winnipeg in this one.
You mentioned it was, and that's the Lawler catch for the touchdown after that amazing Lawler catch, and another one for Dembski. But Collaros 18 of 23, 385, 5 touchdowns, no picks. He had led the CFL in interceptions thrown. This is changing his ratio in a real hurry. And that 385, as you mentioned, it's a season high for passing yards for Zach Collaros. And Brady Oliveira coming into that carry with 68 on the ground, and also had that 33-yard catch that he took for a touchdown as well. But this is Collaros vintage 21, 22, 23. We haven't seen the Bomber offense perform that way this season.
Yeah, and it just took them some time to get back to who they are, and I think it's been so overlooked. And I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, is just the fact that I think it's very easy from an overview to look at Winnipeg from last year to this year and go, well, they still had Zach Collaros and Brady Oliveira and Nick Dembski, Willie Jefferson, Adam Bighill, and think things haven't changed. Flag down on the play.
Knocked away there by Devondrick Bynum in the coverage on Lawler.
But then when you sit down and really go through all 24 positions on their depth chart, you realize there's been a lot of turnover on this team. And then you factor in the injuries, particularly to the receiving corps.
Defensive pass interference, Edmonton number 16, 10-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Lawler's lined up out wide on this one. Devondrick Bynum in coverage. See the arm around the waist fighting to keep Lawler from getting inside on that. But, just to finish the thought, so much change week to week at receiver, especially early in the season. You can kind of see why Zach Collaros' numbers weren't that great to start the year.
Busting it through across midfield into the Elks zone is Brady Oliveira. But yeah, Zach Collaros, most outstanding player twice in the CFL in his time with Winnipeg, and in MOP form tonight anyway, even though his season has not been great. But he is more than enough to pass Darian Durant tonight in terms of passing leaders in the history of the CFL. 17, and lo and behold, chasing Trevor Harris now. They still have a thing going and not too far apart. And number 8, Winnipeg. What a performance tonight for him and offense, team in general. And as they are heading towards their 7th straight victory and looking to improve their record to 9-6. And when you consider, as mentioned, back in late July in Toronto, they went to overtime, a game that some would argue that they could have or should have won, would have had a better chance at it. Instead, they ended up losing in overtime to fall to 2-6 after an 0-4 start. And Mike O'Shea keeps them composed as always, and lo and behold, 7 straight wins, it would appear, the way things are going right now, would put them at 9-6 and in charge in the West Division.
Yeah, and I would suggest that 4 straight trips to the Grey Cup goes a long way towards your ability to trust the process.
And that's despite all those changes you talked about, too. There's still that veteran core there to lead everybody else along. You talked about the importance of that, too.
Yeah, and it's just kind of getting the other guys up to speed with how they do things.
Flores throwing again. Look who's got it. Big first down, sets him up. Deep in the Elk zone again, Kenny Lawler, another catch.
Kenny Lawler using that waggle to build speed and then attacking the middle of the field. Zach Collaros just hitting him perfectly in stride. You know, Rod, we worked on the Hall of Fame game a couple weeks ago, and I getting a bit of an S.J. Green vibe from Kenny Lawler right about now.
Well, with that catch he had earlier.
Think they're having fun?
It looks like they are tonight, that's for sure. Kenny Lawler, 8 targets, 7 catches, 114 yards, and a touchdown. Night's not over yet. They're still slinging it down the field, faking to Oliveira. Now that's coming back to its Wilson. Keeps his feet inside the 5. He wanted that end zone. Ty Bray kept him out. But looking to do what Oliveira did in the first half. After the catch, and they just keep on fighting.
A great battle after the catch here from Ontario Wilson. It looks like he's wrapped up at about the 9-yard line. Fighting his way down inside the 5. That'll bring in Terry Wilson.
Zach Collaros now 420 passing yards. That's his 4th career 400-yard game. The career high is 439.
The ball will be placed.
He's 19 yards away.
7-yard line.
We'll say his knee was down at the 7. We'll bring it back there as announced by the referee Andre Prue. But yeah, Collaros just 19 yards away from a career high in passing yards per game. And it is still a 1st and goal. Or goal to go, I should say. They're calling it a 2nd down given where they marked it. Initially looked like a goal to go.
So they had gone to the big team. This will bring the regular offense back out.
Because Ontario Wilson's knee was down, they brought it back. On the 2nd and 5. Into the end zone again. Lawler caught the ball, brought it down. They discuss. It's another touchdown for Lawler.
Well, we saw the one-handed catch earlier, and if you were wondering what he does for an encore, foot clearly down inbounds, ball secured. Kenny Lawler.
Straight fire all on his own. Beautifully placed by Collaros too, where only Lawler could get it.
Don't do the fucking best.
Just wow.
Incredible night. Kenny Lawler, 130 yards receiving now, 2 touchdowns, but not just the yardage. It's the way he's picking up that yardage. 6th touchdown pass for Zach Collaros on the night against no interception.
Kenny Lawler. Man of the moment.
Get the ball near him tonight. He's bringing it in every which way. Another touchdown, Dylan Mitchell. It's now a 5-touchdown gap. And as impressive as the Elks were to start the second half on offense, the team has been outscored by a touchdown in the second half.
Watch Kenny Lawler go to work here. Marcus Lewis, the halfback, is going to pick him up. He's playing inside leverage. Lawler pushes him to the inside, breaks out. And beautiful throw there from Zach Collaros. Easy to have faith in Kenny Lawler to go up and get it in tight space, given their years of experience together.
Bethel Thompson throwing again up to 25 for Gittins. Final thought on, well, Collaros for one thing, 6 touchdown passes is a career high, and he's now just 7 yards away from a career high in passing per game. Chatting there with another quarterback on the team recently brought in, Jake Dolegala. But thought on Lawler too. Certainly not his most productive season, far from it, because of injuries, not getting the ball thrown as much. Had only 241 yards receiving all season. Of course, missing much of that time in 2 touchdowns. And you look at what he's done on tonight alone. 130 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. And
yeah, so I think it's safe to say that Kenny Lawler's numbers aren't down because of a decline in his abilities.
Definitely not. He's demonstrated that tonight every which way. And the Bombers are once again demonstrating that not only are they an upper echelon team again, they're looking definitely, most definitely, like the team to beat in the West. Getting 6.5 minutes away from making it 7 straight wins and a record of 9-6 and clinching a playoff spot again. Whitehead came in, backed off, flags out. Winnipeg football, bottom line, 6:14 on the clock. Terry Wilson's coming in. Zach Collaros' day, considerable as it's done on this beautiful night in Winnipeg, especially. They win all 5, so it's tied heading into day 3 tomorrow. 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Pacific. Coverage begins on TSN and CTV. The President's Cup. Terry Wilson at quarterback for Winnipeg. He has yet to throw a pass in his CFL career. This, Wilson's first year in the Canadian Football League out of New Mexico. Had been number 3 in the depth chart behind Chris Streveler, who was injured and out for the season. So now getting some late game reps in a blowout.
Yeah, a good opportunity here for Terry Wilson and for the Bombers, quite frankly, to get him a little bit of experience. Mentioned Jake Dolegala coming in as a free agent after he was released by the BC Lions earlier this season. Be interesting to see, just given his experience, number of starts in Saskatchewan last year, if Dolegala climbs that depth chart over time.
Kevin Sklarcius hauling in the first pass ever thrown in the CFL by Terry Wilson, and it is complete. But wondered that too, if they'd give him reps tonight with Dolegala standing by, but indeed they are. Not enough for a first down, so 2 and out, they'll have to kick it away.
Yeah, no, any touches, any opportunity for Terry Wilson to get a greater feel for the game. Valuable for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as a playoff-bound team.
Jamison Sheehan.
And I guess they are officially a playoff-bound team, assuming they can hold on to this 35-point lead.
Unless they got a 35-pointer in the playbook for Edmonton. academic now as the Elks are facing 5-10. They started 0-7. And then they won 5 of their next 6. But now they're looking at back-to-back losses. And this makes things really precarious. Saskatchewan is just ahead for 3rd in the West. The Riders hosting the Ottawa Red Blacks tomorrow. BC Lions with a big one tonight against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Big run, Kevin Brown. You mentioned that stat about 3 running backs on one team to go over 500. Hasn't happened since 1966. Depending on the yardage there for Brown, he needed 22 in order to join the 500 club. Justin Rankin already has tonight, and Javon Leake injured, but had already gone over 500.
Yeah, Brown's going to be very close with that run for sure.
Gain of 20. Back to Brown, and there you go. So the first time since, what, 58 years in the CFL that a team has had 3 running backs go over 500 yards, and looks like Brown is hobbled after those 2 carries. But he's over 500. Rankin's over 500. Javon Leake is over 500. Second and 1 after that carry by Kevin Brown. Right back to him. 3 straight carries. Just giving him some work in a game that is over. 55-20, 35-point lead for Winnipeg. Clinch a playoff spot. And the Elks, depending on what happens with the Lions, and certainly especially the Riders tomorrow, I mean, they're not out of it. But if Saskatchewan wins tomorrow, it's daunting. They have 3 games left. They'd be 5 points behind the final playoff spot. Of course, the way the East has gone this year, no chance of a crossover.
And I know the Edmonton Elks looked at this rematch with Winnipeg as a little bit of a measuring stick. In a way, for them, they want to start demonstrating that obviously this team has come a long way from their 0-7 start.
They really have.
Yeah, much better football team at this point. But they also want to show that they can get some wins against the big boys.
Deep look, a little too far for Geno Lewis. There's a touchdown tonight. 3-minute warning issued, 2:49 on the clock here at Princess Auto Stadium, as the Bombers are about to clinch a playoff berth. Recently passing Bud Grant, it looks like, yes, another playoff appearance too, about to be clinched officially in just a few moments' time. And 9-6, when you think this team started at 0-4, and at one point we're 2-6. A 7 straight winning run by Winnipeg, and they're in Hamilton. Face the Ticats next week. The Ticats and a big one against BC coming up, part 2 of our doubleheader. Into double coverage, and drop. It was intended for Zach Mathis. Evan Holm right there. Dominant organization. It had a rough start this year, but one thing we've consistently seen is just how good they've been at home, Dwayne.
Well, we need to upgrade that 36-5 to a 37-5.
Bring the percentage up a little bit.
Yeah.
Took over the job 10 years ago. 10 seasons as the head coach in Winnipeg, and yes, just recently passed Bud Grant, the all-time winningest head coach in the history of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And you can ask anyone about it. There would be praise for Mike O'Shea. You just can't ask Mike O'Shea about it. When asked him recently about the name Bud Grant, you gotta approach it, kind of gently, because he doesn't like these comparisons. He doesn't feel he belongs even having his name mentioned with Bud Grant. That's how humble he is about this. But he wished he'd actually had a chance to spend more time with Bud Grant. He didn't meet him, but I'm sure he would have loved to have talked to him more. And what a legacy.
Yeah, and Mike O'Shea is such a student of the game, but a genuine fan, supporter, steward of Canadian football.
He really is.
You can certainly understand when you know Mike and you know his history, his background, his personality, why he would bristle
at the
comparison to a legend. But the fact is, suffice it to say, Mike O'Shea has had a terrific run here in Winnipeg.
He really has. I mean, he'd be the last one to admit it. I mean, he is that modest. That was Niles Morgan on the sack, by the way, Terry Wilson. And to him, he keeps it all business. Next game, finish this one, start thinking ahead to Hamilton. Not one who wants to dwell on the past and past accomplishments, and they've been considerable. 4 straight trips to the Grey Cup, winning the first 2 over Hamilton, and those just narrow losses, so close against Toronto and then Montreal. Jamison Sheehan to punt it away. 1:43 on the clock and counting here. For the Bombers, make it official. But yeah, up to 9-6 now. And who knows if they run the table the way they're rolling right now. They still have games against the Argos. They finished the season, the regular season, in Montreal. They still have a lot to play for too, of course. Tonight gets them a playoff spot, but there's still the matter of wrapping up first in the West and another home Western final.
Yeah, the BC Lions are just a game behind them as they take on Hamilton right about now. The Lions looking to keep pace with what the Bombers have done here tonight.
Kevin Brown still in a running back. To a lot of yardage, a lot more racked up by Justin Rankin, but in a losing cause for the Elks, who are a much better team, but really still paying for that 0-7 start. And the updated look now. First team with 3 running backs with 500+ rushing yards since 1966, when Edmonton did it and Hamilton did it as well. Javon Leake injured and out, but he'd already gotten there. Closing it out for Cloud Bethel-Thompson. And they need, as they have all along, they need some favors. They need the Ottawa Redblacks to do them a favor tomorrow. Otherwise, the math is just ridiculously daunting at that point. But if somehow Saskatchewan, if the Redblacks win that game and they clinch a playoff spot, then the Riders would still be ahead of the Elks, but just a little closer, 3 points, and they have a big showdown next week. Not much for Edmonton to hang its head on right now, but they'll have to take it under a minute to go.
Regardless, we are in for a fun final month of the regular season in the Canadian Football League. Everybody's still in the mix.
I can't recall getting this late in the season and being able to say that.
Yeah.
We got the Alouettes and the Argos tomorrow. Montreal trying to clinch first in the East. As mentioned, Ottawa later trying to finally clinch that playoff spot after losing a couple of games. Knocked away by Ford on Mitchell.
Flag down late. It did look like he was there a little early.
And there's Trey. Didn't get in tonight. Did last week. Brother versus brother.
Interference. Winnipeg number 30. Automatic first down.
Bragging rights go to Terrell in this home and home series.
Kevin Jones in the slot. Sorry, Dylan Mitchell, intended receiver, kind of coming through him to make a play on the ball.
Trey did have a moment against his brother last week, though, in that flea flicker that got Terrell biting on, and it ended up being a Eugene Lewis touchdown.
That's Terrell suggesting post-game that trick plays don't really count.
Brother versus brother, just not tonight. And in both cases, it's Taiwan Garbett who had a touchdown in the first half on a pass that went just a little bit in behind, a lateral, and he picked that up and took it in for a CFL TD. It's kind of night it's been, all Winnipeg, with the exception of a couple of Elks possessions to start the second half. But in both of those cases, Bombers essentially said that's as close as you're going to get tonight. Under a half minute to go. And a draw to Brown. Tackled in inside the 40. Brandon Alexander.
Yeah, talk about Brandon Alexander, Evan Holm, Dietrich Nichols, the three interior guys in that Winnipeg secondary. And Mike O'Shea can't say enough about the importance of those three to the success of the entire group. They have two new corners this year who have excelled. Terrell Bonds on the boundary side, Terrell Ford to the field. A lot of the credit goes to the communication and the support that they get from the three veterans inside.
This will be the last play of this game for Mitchell. Did he hang on to that? And a night of some big catches, salvaging a touchdown for Edmonton. Dylan Mitchell with no time left. And if nothing else, it's one for his highlight reel.
Yeah, just stays with it on the way down to the ground. You know, Terrell Ford and fighting for the ball may have actually helped hold that one up a little bit to enable Dylan Mitchell to come up with the grab.
A touchdown for Mitchell.
Well, McLeod Bethel Thompson, the Edmonton Elks, battling right to the end of this one. Again, tough one tonight against this Winnipeg juggernaut.
And they send Boris Beatty out for the point after. To get it back to 28 points. The game is over. The winning streak continues for Winnipeg. Bombers again looking like the team to beat in the West. Part 2.